host, Sherry Beall, and we're here today with our special guest, Marta Monahan, the author of the book titled Strength of Character and Grace, and our special guests, Barbara and Patrick Foley. Today, we're going to talk about relationships, and relationships they are a part of all of our lives, whether it's with a sibling, a husband, a wife, a parent. So we're going to learn how to bring harmony into our relationship and have a happier and more fulfilling one. Thank you, Marta, for being with us here today.
My pleasure.
And sharing your wisdom. Now, Marta, do you work with people, with couples, as a counselor or as a therapist?
I work with couples, but I am not a counselor or a therapist. I am a teacher. I am an educator. I teach people how to stop the damage and how to raise the standards of manners that they treat each other with.
Okay, so why don't we start today with you, Barbara. What is it that you bring to your and Patrick's relationship that creates harmony?
Well, I think the main thing, is when I make an extra effort, which sometimes I have to motivate myself to do, and go above and beyond to do something to surprise Patrick, whether it's for a special occasion or the most fun is like putting a note into, his lunch or something, just to surprise him.
That's sweet. What can you tell us what one of your notes might
it'll
say?
Be a love note and probably something sexy as well. But sometimes I like to get the thought, it gets me a little excited to do something really special. So one time for his birthday I did a surprise, and I guess I had always had a fantasy to do something completely different. I borrowed a black wig, wore a very sexy dress, and I made arrangements for a taxi to pick him up. I left him a note that said he's going to be picked up by a taxi and taken someplace for a surprise and to pack a bag. And I'd planned this all out, and it was really fun for me to do something really special for Patrick. And also really blew his socks off, I think it was.
Yeah, sure did. Didn't even recognize her.
Ah.
I brought him to a bar, and I was dressed up, and I wanted to see if he'd recognize me.
Ah, well, that sounds pretty exciting.
And
He didn't?
Now,
So what did you do? Go pick him up?
now, I want to find out what Patrick has added to the relationship to make it harmonious or exciting.
Well, the harmony that we have in the relationship has a lot to do with how much we give each other. And I like giving Barbara, a lot of little gifts. I make dinner for her consistently. I make her lunch in the morning. I take care of her with gifts, and we have a lot of fun. We go out a lot. We express a lot of love and that for each other.
Well, it sounds like you have a wonderful relationship and really appreciate each other, and there's a lot of harmony and a lot of effort to create that harmony. Have you been down rough roads before, or been in a situation that has made you really appreciate each other and maybe step back and look at how wonderful and how special your relationship is?
Yes, as a matter of fact, we had a pretty smooth ride, I think, until about 2 years ago I was diagnosed with breast cancer. And in fact, it's kind of interesting because for the most part people thought when we got together that Patrick, being a little bit older than me, that, it's this May, December, kind of relationship. And then here I was the one getting, a life-threatening illness. And so that whole experience, I think, was definitely a wake-up call to how we treat each other in relationship and the fact that it is life-threatening and something could happen.
And it really makes you step back and look and really appreciate, as we all should, what we have. Marta, what is it that most couples come to you to work on?
Well, I find that most people have two sets of manners. So they often ask me if I believe that people change after marriage. And I tell them, no, they don't change after marriage. They change at courtship. Then after marriage, they revert to what they really are. And so most people have a set of good manners for company or strangers and another for family. So that when they're courting with their company manners. And then they get married, then the family manners come out, and those are the worst. Families get the worst treatment. And it should be in reverse, because a relationship, whether it's a love or friendship or family, needs more care. The closer you are, the more care it demands. And that is what I see here, that these two lovely people are taking care of each other, and the words keep repeating themselves in different ways. They stretch. They go beyond what is routine to give surprises, to take care, to make gifts. So this is why most relationships fail, because this is missing. Usually people get married and they relax their treatment.
So how could we help, say, Barbara and Patrick if they were going through a rough time, or they just, maybe it was just one little conflict that we all have in relationships? How do we deal with conflict and communication?
Well, I would say that we have a right to be different. We are different. We look different. Even twins are different. So we have a right to think different and to act different, but we don't have a right to damage each other. So when there is pain, when there is hurt, it has to be expressed, because the other person may not know. You have to know what you're causing, because sometimes, and I'd say that is not also uncommon, people cause damage and they know it. And the cruelty is not in the damage they cause, but to the indifference to the pain that they have caused. And that indifference creates distance, and it begins to kill love.
So we should express how we feel, but through anger?
You can be angry, but you cannot damage the other person in the process. You can say, I'm hurting, because most people don't have a language of pain. They have a language of rage. So they vent the rage, but the rage does not fix the problem. It aggravates it. So you have to ask yourself, do you want to solve the problem, or you want to vent your rage?
Well, Barbara and Patrick, can you give us an example of maybe one thing right now that you're trying to decide upon together, or maybe a little obstacle or conflict?
Well, we're trying to decide about taking a family vacation, and it's like, do we spend it with my family or his family? And so that's come under discussion, because we both feel pretty strong that we each want to go a different way. So, and we don't want to take separate vacations, so we have to resolve this. And we've been discussing getting at a compromise.
Okay, I can understand that. I've been in that situation. Marta, how can you help them out here?
Well, I would say you write down on pieces of paper every possible solution that you can think of for this problem, and leave it alone for about 3 days, and let your mind incubate the thought. And you'll find the perfect compromise for the two of you, because obviously you want opposing wishes, so you cannot have both at the same time, but you may have a little bit of each. Or find some alternatives and then choose the one that would do the best for both of you and for the visit, so that you enjoy your vacation. Because if you're going to be running around back and forth, then that's not going to be a vacation. So you have to think about what you want with each other at your vacation, and then you give the rest to the family, because you have to give to each other the best and the most time.
Marta, what is something that we could give a couple who's maybe going through a tough time, or maybe someone's been together for a while and they want to give a rebirth to their romance or to their love? How can we do that?
Well, that's a very complex question, but I will answer it as well as I can in a short time. If you think of a marriage as two people, and each circle representing each person, they do this when they get married and create a third shape. So they create an entity of the couple. It's like an entity of a business. It's an agreement that you make, that you cannot make any decisions without consulting. If the one circle disappears in the other, then one is absorbed and crushed. And somebody somewhere said that if two people are exactly alike, one is extra. So you have to keep yourself as an individual. And so if you keep the entity as a third entity out of the two, then each person has to grow on their own. Because when people are not growing, they get bored and boring. And so you need to grow, and at the same time to contribute to the entity that you have formed together.
So, Marta, in other words, we can't be lazy and just be stagnant and take it for granted. We have to put some effort into it.
You have to put effort and just improve 5 things a day in your own life, plus a little bit of improvement in the life that you share together. But when people are not growing, they're not stretching, they are no longer exciting to be with, because there's nothing new. They get to know each other completely well, and they get bored, but they don't understand that, and they blame each other instead of taking responsibility. Well, if I'm not growing, then of course I'm going to be bored and boring.
When we come back, we'll discuss what it takes to create harmony in our relationship.